All right. The midnight tape for this Saturday morning, February 28th, 2026, has just delivered a set of numbers that confirms the weekend freeze is no longer a localized technical issue. It is a systemic lockdown of the Western financial plumbing. John A.G. has been tracking the paper-to-physical disconnect for over a decade, and what we are witnessing right now, in the aftermath of the most chaotic first notice day in history, is the final realization that the vaults are functionally empty. While the mainstream media is silent over the weekend, the private settlement channels are lighting up with force majeure alerts and access denied messages. The COMEX registered inventory, which we watched crash to 72 million ounces yesterday, is now effectively frozen as the exchange refuses to process any new delivery requests until the liquidity imbalance is resolved. We are looking at a world where the exit door has been welded shut while the building is still on fire. The data hitting the terminal regarding the weekend over-the-counter, OTC markets, is simply staggering. We are seeing physical silver grain trading in the shadow markets for as high as $135 per ounce. While the paper ticker on your phone is still frozen at the Friday close, John A.G. is doing the math for you. That is a 40% premium for immediate physical possession. Why is this happening now? Because the first notice day notices that were filed yesterday revealed that the bullion banks have a deliverable metal deficit of over 90 million ounces for the March contract alone. They have promised silver they do not have, and they are now using the weekend maintenance window to try and negotiate cash settlements behind closed doors. The smart money is refusing the cash. They want the bars, and the banks are in a state of absolute paralysis because you cannot print atoms. Look at the divergence in the global sentiment as the eastern markets finish their Saturday morning clearing. The Shanghai Gold Exchange has signaled that it will remain the primary physical hub for the BRICS nations, effectively bypassing the London and New York clearinghouses for all future industrial settlements. John A.G. has warned you that the west to east drain would eventually leave the western vaults as nothing more than digital museums of paper lies. Tonight, that prediction has become the law of the land. Every refinery in the Eastern Hemisphere has been instructed to prioritize domestic manufacturing over Western export contracts. The West is being decoupled from the physical reality of the metal markets, and the weekend freeze is the silent alarm that the system has functionally failed to maintain its collateral chains. The weekend freeze has now extended into the retail banking sector, where we are receiving reports of system updates preventing large-scale digital transfers in several major financial corridors. John A.G. knows better than to believe in weekend maintenance during a global silver default. This is a deliberate cooling-off period. They are freezing the movement of capital to prevent a bank run on the physical collateral that isn't there. If you think your digital balance is the same as having silver in your hand, this weekend is your wake-up call. They are trapping the liquidity in the digital cage, while the elites move their final physical positions into private, unallocated storage. This is the bail-in maneuver happening during the one time of the week when the public isn't watching the screens. The industrial panic has reached a level of strategic emergency for the global semiconductor and aerospace sectors this Saturday morning. John A.G. has primary sources inside a major Tier 1 defense contractor who says their silver procurement team was told that all non-essential industrial deliveries have been suspended until further notice by the Department of Commerce. This is a national security seizure in all but name. They are prioritizing the military-industrial complex over the consumer tech and green energy sectors. This means that if you are a solar panel manufacturer or an EV battery producer, your supply chain has just vanished. You are now forced to go into the private scrap and secondary markets, where the price of silver is already pushing toward $150 an ounce for immediate delivery. The news out of the primary mining jurisdictions in Mexico and Peru has taken a dark turn over the last 24 hours. The mining unions have issued a joint statement refusing to return to the pits until a new monetary framework is established that reflects the true scarcity of the metal they produce. John A.G. is tracking the labor movements, and this is not a strike for higher wages, it is a strike for value. The miners are realizing that they are exchanging their finite national resources for a currency that is losing its purchasing power by the hour. Mexico's military presence at the mine gates is no longer just for security, it is to ensure that the concentrate stays within the national borders. The Western supply cliff has been reached, and there is no safety net for the paper exchanges. The $35 trillion debt wall is currently the elephant in the room that no one in the mainstream wants to talk about this weekend. The interest payments on the U.S. debt are now compounding at a rate that is consuming the entire tax base, leaving the government with two choices: default on the debt or default on the currency. John A.G. sees that they have chosen the latter, and they are using the silver market as the siphon to drain the remaining wealth from the middle class. If your wealth is digital, it is a liability for a bankrupt system. If your wealth is physical silver, you are the only one who has escaped the bail-in zone. The weekend freeze is the dress rehearsal for the total digital reset that will move the world into a central bank digital currency, CBDC environment. where your physical assets will be the only thing they cannot track. Look at the gold to silver ratio as we analyze the weekend OTC data. It is currently undergoing a terminal compression that is rewriting 5 decades of financial manipulation. While gold is holding its own as the premier monetary anchor, silver is exploding as the ultimate indispensable asset. John A.G. has shown you the data where silver historically outperforms gold 5-1 during a systemic collapse. We are watching the ratio drop from 85-1 toward 38-1 in a single trading cycle. If this ratio reverts to its historical bimetallic mean of 15-1, which is inevitable given the physical shortage, the price of silver will enter a territory that the mainstream experts called a conspiracy theory. The rubber band is snapping back with the force of a tsunami, and it is destroying every naked short position in the world tonight. Every update I provide is based on the raw tape, and the tape today is telling us that the plumbing of the global financial system is officially broken. We are seeing record-high fails to deliver, FTDs, in the silver ETFs and silver-backed equities being reported in the weekend settlement reports. This means that even the people who think they own silver through a safe brokerage account are finding out they own nothing but an unsecured claim on an empty vault. John A.G. is telling you that the weekend freeze is the final warning shot. In a world of digital illusions, the physical bar is the only ledger that cannot be erased with a keystroke. If the internet flickers tonight and the banking databases are recalculated, the only thing you will truly own is what you can touch, carry, and defend. The face of shock you see in the data, that is the face of the institutional trader who realizes his short position is 1,000 times larger than the physical metal he can actually source today. John A.G. sees this panic in the private weekend order flow. We are seeing panic covering in the shadow markets where the bullion banks are desperately buying metal at any premium just to avoid a total exchange default when the markets open on Sunday evening. But the East is not selling, they are holding. They know that the Western system is insolvent and they are waiting for the total reset of the monetary order. The hunter has become the prey, and the prey has no silver left to feed the monster they created. The system has officially snapped, and the weekend freeze is the final signal. The central banks of the BRICS nations are currently finalizing the framework for a new commodity-backed settlement unit that will include silver as a core strategic component. This is the endgame for the dollar-denominated silver market. When the world's major producers of energy and metals decide to trade in a unit backed by those very assets, the global demand for the dollar drops to zero overnight. John A.G. is tracking the repo markets, and the collateral shortage is reaching a terminal crisis point this morning. They need the metal to back the new system, and they are taking it from the Western exchanges through the registered vault drain. We are watching a hostile takeover of the global financial system by the people who actually produce the wealth. The no-hype philosophy is about looking at the primary sources and the mathematics of the physical drain. If you look at the Indian import data from this morning, the demand for physical silver bars has increased by 1,000% year over year. The small man in the East understands what the Western expert does not. That paper is a promise, but silver is a payment. John A.G. knows that the 8 billion people on this planet are all trying to fit through a door that is only wide enough for a few million. When the masses realize that the banks are insolvent and the dollar is a ghost, the rush into silver will be the greatest wealth transfer in 500 years. You are not buying silver. You are exchanging a failing currency for a permanent store of value. Mexico's move toward military-secured nationalization is the ultimate black swan for the Western paper markets today. If the Mexican government stops all exports of silver concentrate to protect their own high-tech future, the COMEX will default within 24 hours. John A.G. is monitoring the diplomatic channels, and the tension between Mexico City and Washington is at an all-time high. The resource war has officially moved from oil to the strategic metals of the renewable age. If you don't own the physical metal in a jurisdiction you trust, you are at the mercy of geopolitics. This is why "if you don't hold it, you don't own it" is the most important sentence in your financial vocabulary. The weekend freeze is just the beginning of the vault lockdown. The industrial hunger for silver in 2026 has reached a point where the military-industrial complex is now in a direct bidding war with the tech companies for every available ounce of physical metal. Every high-tech missile, every satellite, and every advanced radar system requires silver for its superior conductivity. John A.G. has confirmed that the strategic national stockpile in several Western nations is functionally zero this weekend. They have cannibalized their own strategic reserves to keep their current military systems running. This means there is no backstop. There is no government rescue coming when the retail public finally realizes the banks are empty. When the registered vaults hit zero, the market will move to no offer status. You won't be able to buy silver at any price. The John A.G. logo stands for Financial Warfare Education because we are in a war for your financial future. The banks have the media, the politicians, and the printing presses, but we have the tape. we have the numbers. And most importantly, we have the physical. Today's morning data is a total validation for everyone who ignored the hype and focused on the registered drain. We are on the right side of history, and the great wealth transfer is the event we are living through right now. The $35 trillion system is functionally dead. It just hasn't realized it yet because the digital screens are still pretending everything is normal. But the weekend freeze proved that the illusion is fragile and the reset is inevitable. As the shadow markets prepare for the Sunday evening open, the ask prices in the private dealer networks have jumped another 20% in the last 12 hours. John AG is seeing silver bars being traded for gold bars at a ratio of 35-1 in the shadow markets of Singapore. The official price is a joke that only the uninformed still believe. The real price is being set by the people who have the metal in their possession and are refusing to sell it for fiat currency. This is the market decoupling in its terminal stage. By the time the news tells you that silver is the new gold, there will be none left to buy at any price. You are the early minority who saw the math and tracked the tape. I want to highlight the psychological warfare being used against you today. The headlines are talking about weekend market volatility and technical adjustments. This is a lie designed to keep you from pulling your money out of the failing banks. They want to trap you in the bail-in zone before the Monday morning open. John AG has seen this movie before. In every crisis, they tell the public that everything is fine, right up until the moment they lock the vault doors. But the 2026 scenario is different because the physical shortage is so acute that they cannot hide it with paper contracts anymore. The truth is leaking out through the premiums, through the delivery failures, and through the empty registered vaults. Don't be a victim. The weekend freeze wasn't a glitch. It was a strategic freeze. The West is preparing the world for a new system where they can control the movement of assets through digital IDs and CBDCs. John AG knows that silver is the ultimate freedom asset. You cannot turn off a physical silver bar with a keystroke. You cannot tax a transaction that happens in physical metal outside of their digital surveillance system. This is why they are so desperate to keep the price suppressed. They want you dependent on their digital lies. But the physical world is finally demanding its due. The producers are striking, the East is bidding $135, and the vaults are empty. The paper system is burning and the fire is spreading to the foundation. We are heading into a window of time that will define the next decade of your life. The March delivery window has officially opened, and the bullion banks are staring into an abyss of physical default. John AG predicts that we will see force majeure declared on several major commodity exchanges before the weekend is over. This will effectively end the futures market and move the world back to a physical-only trade model. The paper trap has officially snapped shut. If you are in the physical, you have a seat on the lifeboat. If you are in the paper, you are part of the ship. Stay sharp, watch the tape, and remember, the system has officially snapped under the weight of the silver shortage. I'll leave you with this final thought for the morning update. The exit is closed, the vaults are empty, the bail-in is live. John AG will be back for the 7:30 a.m. tape update as the Eastern shadow markets react to the weekend freeze. We are living through the greatest wealth transfer in 500 years, and the data is the only light in the fog of financial warfare. Stay disciplined, watch the premiums in Shanghai, and for the love of everything, keep your eye on the physical. The paper market is a sinking ship, and the fire has reached the boiler room. It is time to step out of the illusion and into the reality of physical metal. All right, I'm out.